Have you ever felt like your family is talking but no one's listening? Have you ever felt like no one's really understanding each other? Well, emotional intelligence might be the missing link, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
So you might be wondering, what is emotional intelligence? It's the ability to manage, recognize, and understand your own emotions, and also to be able to do it for others.
Yeah. So, like, how do you help your family to grow? How do you grow as a married couple? How can you instill this concept of emotional intelligence into children? Because the problem is that a lot of families aren't intentional. They don't name it. So that's what I'm hoping, number one, you get from this video is start to talk about emotional intelligence. Ask your children, do you know what emotional intelligence is? Talk about it as a couple and then think about how to explain that. So we're going to give 3 tips about emotional intelligence and how you can do that in your own family.
Yeah, so the first tip would be to learn to identify and name the emotions that you have. So happy, sad, for a younger child, angry, moody, those kinds of things. So to be able to recognize those and name them.
Yeah, because a lot of times, you'll be taught. I know me and Letty, we've had like conflict, right? And so I'll say, "Why are you mad?" And what is like one of the first things you always say?
I'm not mad.
I'm not mad. And it almost is like offensive to have someone misname your emotion. So that was where a lack of emotional intelligence on both our parts were causing friction in our marriage.
And it takes time and practice to be able to do that, but it's better to think, okay, I feel like this person is mad versus, why are you mad? Say, I feel like you're mad. Is that right? Am I reading your emotions correctly? And that gives them a time to respond and say, oh no, I wasn't mad, I was just thinking, or filling in the blank.
Yeah, and you can come to an agreement about how to describe that particular emotion, because it's hard to articulate sometimes how you're feeling, and it's not important to get the exact word, like as though there's these black and white definitions for naming how people are feeling inside, but it's more about coming alongside a person. And emotional intelligence is about understanding and saying, okay, would annoyed be a good word, or would aggravated or upset? And you guys spending that time as a married couple to figure out and articulate what names you're going to give whatever common emotions you experience. Because, chances are you're kind of in these cycles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are destructive, some of them.
A lot of times it leads to, accusations, when it's really just a lack of understanding. So, reading that person, like, you might think, oh, they're ignoring me because they didn't respond after I said something. So instead of saying, you're ignoring me, you say, I feel like you're ignoring me. Is that what's happening? And then it gives that person time to respond and say, oh no, I wasn't ignoring you, I was just thinking. And then you can come to agreement and say, okay, well, next time, can you just maybe let me know that you're thinking, versus not saying anything at all, because it makes me feel this way. So it's just a way that you're getting to know each other and understand each other and give each other space to not have those accusations be what defines conversation.
Yeah, or just bogs it down, right? Yeah. Like just kind of slows things down.
What hinders, hinders.
Because you're trying to reach reconciliation, you're trying to reach reconnection, because something has happened, there's disconnection. And thinking and framing it that way, I remember talking to a friend. He was trying to describe the conflict, him and his newly married wife. They just newlyweds, they just got married, and he was like, we had this like thing, and now we're just like, we're not mad, like we're not yelling, but we're just like, it's off. He kept saying that word. I was like, oh, you're disconnected right now. And he's like, yes, that's the word. And so then I was able to talk with him about like how maybe he can bring about reconnection, because that's the goal when you just feel off from your partner. So that's tip number 1. Learn to identify and name those emotions. Come to agreement about what the negative emotions are going to be called, so that is not becoming an additional roadblock to the root cause of whatever the conflict is, so you could actually resolve it and reconnect.
It takes time, it takes energy, but it's very much worth it. I know that for our marriage, it's been very helpful, and also for our relationships with our kids.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially teenagers, like,
because they get a lot more nuanced with their emotions. Exactly. And so it's like, okay, you don't like me saying you're mad or you're upset or you're grumpy. what do we call this? All right, so tip number 2, practice empathy. Listen without interrupting. Okay, this one hits close to home because I used to do what I call now, I used to police her emotions a lot, right? And I would try to correct her emotions based off of my intention. So if I was like, she was upset with me or angry, first strike one would be me saying like, why are you mad? I'm not mad. And then if we somehow got through that, now I'm like, well, you shouldn't be mad or upset or angry because I didn't mean to do that. It was an accident. And so learning that my intention doesn't matter when it comes to the fact that I hurt my wife's feelings, and acknowledging that. And I should be able to listen to her share her feelings and her emotions without interrupting with policing or telling her that she somehow, we call it invalidating, not invalidating her emotions, right? So that's been huge, not interrupting and just letting someone share. Do you have anything for that tip or an experience? It's okay if you don't.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That's probably more where I've had to learn.
Well, I definitely have struggled with the interruption because I feel like I know what's happening. So it takes humility to be able to say, okay, I'm going to listen because I don't know everything. And I could have this wrong.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I wind up being wrong. And so being okay with that was a big step for myself sometimes. And so I think it's just a struggle that we have as humans in our fallen nature. So we want to be right, and we want to tell people that we're right, and we want them to know that we're right.
Yeah. Your perspective is not reality, in other words, like learning. And, for me, with unintentionally hurting my wife and then therefore feeling justified in invalidating her emotional response and saying, you shouldn't feel that way because I didn't mean to. What really hit home for me was that if I accidentally hurt someone physically, like on accident, what am I going to do? I'm going to say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. And should I be able to receive correction of like, hey, you need to be careful. Let's figure out what we can do to make sure you don't elbow someone in the face again. So a lot of times we don't have a problem with the physical side of hurting people and how to respond and what to do, because we're kind of taught that from a young age. But a lot of times when we hurt someone emotionally, how to handle that, i.e. emotional intelligence, we're not really taught that from a young age. And we don't really carry that into our marriages all the time, especially if you're starting out in marriage without a lot of healthy older mentorship. Tip number 3, teach family members to share feelings, not accusations. Letty kind of touched on this already, but something that you can say in quotes is, I feel you versus you always, right? So absolute statements are a big no-no in the emotional intelligence land.
And maybe just it's more so putting the, I guess, not fault on you, but putting the responsibility on yourself and saying, I feel this way, versus the you statements, the accusing statements.
Yeah, because people can't argue, especially if they're trying to resolve conflict in a healthy way. It's easier for them not to argue with an I feel statement versus a you or an always statement or an only. So those would be examples.
You always do that.
Or you only do this, or you never do that. So those would be examples of absolute statements that are always going to be hindering the reconnection that we are seeking. So, to summarize, what are the 3 points. Number 1 was
learn to identify your emotions
and name them.
Yes, and name them.
Number 2
is to practice empathy and understanding others.
Yep. And number 3
is teaching family members how to share their feelings without accusations.
Yep. So if you follow these 3 tips, I guarantee the emotional intelligence will increase in your family, and you will be able to enjoy the peaceful fruit of righteousness that comes with just loving each other and caring for each other the best way possible. So this has been another video from Jonathan and Letty at the Innovative Family. You should watch our other videos. We have some about the importance of family traditions. I make some shorts and things like that that can help you throughout the day. So yes, leave a comment down below about what you do as far as increasing emotional intelligence. What are some practices you have in your family that you've seen some good positive fruit from? What are some things you tell your children? What are some things that you follow with you and your wife or your spouse? So yeah, we love to hear from you, and I appreciate you guys watching. Have a good one.
Bye.